The following is an independently produced community access program. The viewpoints expressed are those of the community access producer and do not reflect those of Shaw Cable Systems. The program is presented in response to CRTC policy guidelines regulating community programming.
Welcome to Your Turn here on Shaw TV, Edmonton's live interactive television talk show where you join in the discussion. Throughout the next hour, the line will be on the phone or be on the screen for you to call in. You can also text in or tweet in your comments today with our special guest. I'm your host, Wade Sorokin. Today on the program, we'll be discussing crime in Edmonton and the enforcement of the law. What is your biggest concern when it comes to crime? Do you feel safe in Edmonton? And what do you think are some of the biggest issues when it comes to enforcing the law in Edmonton? We're pleased to welcome to the program today our special guest is Edmonton Police Chief Rod Kinecht. Chief Kinecht, welcome to the program. Thank you for your time today.
Oh, my pleasure, Wade. Thank you very much for having me.
It's quite a day today. Just mentioning, we're going to talk about crime here in Edmonton, but there's crime everywhere, and it affects us all when tragic events happening. This is June the 5th, just in case people are watching the rebroadcast of this program. But on June the 5th, we're hearing a big story out of Moncton about 3 RCMP officers who were killed and 2 other officers injured. Your thoughts on the ripple effect through the enforcement community when these tragic events happen anywhere in the world?
Well, policing is a unique career, and I think it's a bit of a family as such. And we all know what the job entails. We all know the risks and the challenges in the job. And quite frankly, when something like this happens across the country, it impacts on all of us. It's on all of our minds. I know I've been following the story all day and late last night, and I've been talking to colleagues, some friends, and that I know down east in central Canada and right here in Edmonton and north of the city.
Because it is a community.
Absolutely.
When it happens anywhere in the world, everyone is affected, not only citizens, but obviously law enforcement.
Yes.
Now, we're already getting some tweets coming in to bring it closer to home here. This one is from Bean Roaster. It says, Chief Kinecht, how is EPS ready to respond to a Moncton-type crisis?
It's very difficult to prepare for something like this. Each circumstance is very unique in and of itself. Our officers here in Edmonton, very well trained, very well equipped, and are they prepared for that exact type of circumstance? In a broad degree, yes. Okay. But again, policing is, you can never predict what's going to happen. And something as simple as checking a car. You may be stopping a car for a traffic violation, and that can turn into a very violent incident or escalate very, very quickly depending on the circumstances. And so are our officers prepared for that? Absolutely they are, but you never know when that's going to come. And obviously, we police in a community-based policing model. We want the public's confidence. We need the public's trust. We need their cooperation. So you obviously don't approach that car in an aggressive or a defensive manner. You're open, you're friendly, you want to do your job and you want to engage that individual. But that's always in the back of your mind, and you've always got to be ready.
What can you say to Edmontonians whenever these stories come up? Obviously they think about how safe they are in their own city. What can you assure Edmontonians that, about safety in their own city here?
Well, Edmonton it's a big city, and we're growing rapidly, and that's a real challenge for the police, and I think it's a real challenge for the community as well. But Edmonton is a safe community. There are areas in Edmonton that are safer than others, obviously. I think we have some streets, some communities in Edmonton, certain days of the week, certain hours of the day, where you've got to be hyper-vigilant. You've got to be paying attention, and those areas can be a little more challenging than other areas of the city. But overall, we're a relatively safe city. And yes, we have our violent incidents like most communities this size, but we're, quite frankly, violence hasn't, despite the fact that the city is growing, violence isn't exploding here, and violence isn't going up to any great degree. I got the statistics here on Monday on what's been going on since the beginning of the year, and we're a little bit, violence is down as compared to last year,
okay.
and yet the city has probably grown by 30,000 people.
So do you think it's more of a perception then? Because, you know, there's news 24/7, we're hearing about these things happening more and more. Do you think it's more of our perception that crime is happening more and more than the reality?
Well, the violent incidents do get the attention.
Right.
People talk about it, cooler talk, coffee talk, they'll talk about violent incidents. But, you know, we just had a study done by MacEwan University and specific to the homicides. And if you're in a certain area, you're at a certain cohort, the 18 to 34-year-old male that is out on a Friday night at 2 a.m. in the morning is more likely to experience violence than in any other time of the day or any other cohort. So
okay.
It's really been narrowed down, but you can see if, you know, basically if you fly with the crows.
Yeah, okay. We're going to call for a Twitter question. I think it's going to come up on the screen here. Again, we want to hear from you. The phone line is on the screen throughout the program and our Twitter handle as well. This one says, Edmonton Food House knife attack. EPS did a great job in containing this tragedy. What was learned from that tragedy at the West End warehouse?
Well, that was a bit of a challenge. We had a huge facility to go through, but again, our folks were well trained for that. They're trained for the big area and the smaller area. It's a little more challenging having to go through and search cubicle by cubicle, area by area. You don't know who's in there, how many people are in there, what their level of preparedness is to engage the police, what the weapons they have are. So you sort of prepare for the worst and hope for the best. And in that circumstance, a lot of cooperation by employees, a lot of cooperation by the public in solving that crime. It was actually a citizen that provided the information to the police that was helped us identify the individual immediately and then arrest him shortly thereafter. So, you know, police work really is an engagement between the community and the police. If we're successful, the community's successful. If the community's successful, we're successful. It's a partnership. Yep.
There was a study of 124 homicides in the city during the 5-year period from 2007 to 2012, and you touched on this, 90.2% male, the average age 28.9, ethnicity 42.9% Caucasian, 30.1% Native, did not complete high school, a high percentage, 86% unemployed, 70%, substance abuse problems, 51%, mental disorder, 12%, criminal activity, you know, arrests or convictions, 82.7%, served prison or jail time, 49%, and the edged weapon, 57% of murder weapons were an edged weapon. Do you see a shift from guns to knives, and is that something that you're really looking at seriously now?
Well, certainly in Edmonton we do. We are, across Canada, a bit of an anomaly because an edged weapon is the weapon of choice for a homicide in the city of Edmonton, and I would say the weapon of choice for violent acts in the city of Edmonton, serious assaults, for example. So that's something we focus on. It is a trend in Edmonton and not so much in the rest of Canada. We don't know why that is, but that's just the way it is.
And do you think something should there be more laws against knives that, you know, like we have for guns?
Well, our laws are pretty good. Our laws are pretty good. It's just the way we work those laws and make them work to our advantage. The criminal code addresses the fact that if a weapon is hidden or a knife is hidden on a person, I think we just have to be a little more vigilant, specifically knives in nightclubs, for example. There's no reason for somebody to have a Bowie knife in a nightclub at midnight. So I think there's work we can do around that, and that again is engaging the community. Why would a person have a knife at midnight in a nightclub or in a park in the afternoon? Why do they need a knife? So I think there's things we can do, and we can engage nightclub owners, work more closely with them, work together in order to make those areas where people just want to go out and have fun. That's why they're going out to these places, is to have fun. The majority of people don't want people in there anyway that are going to cause problems.
What message can you give to Edmontonians about, you know, their own safety? We just recently had the slut walk, and you know, women feel that they can dress the way they want. They don't deserve to be attacked or sexually assaulted, which is true. And you know, people in dark alleys should, you know, walking in dark alleys at 2 or 3 in the morning, you know, they feel they have the right to do that, and that's true. You do have the right. But what message can you give to people about our own personal safety?
Well, you know, you never blame the victim. I mean, the victim isn't responsible for what's happened to them. It's like, if I could use the example, we tell people, you know, the #1 property crime in the city is stolen vehicles, in particular F-150 trucks and Hondas. Those are the targeted vehicles in our community. So we go out to the community and we say, you know, if you're driving an F-150 or a Honda, just be a little more vigilant and don't leave the keys in the car. Maybe don't leave it unlocked. Don't leave it in a dark area where it's more susceptible to being stolen. The same thing with getting things stolen out of a vehicle. Don't leave things in plain view. You know, quite frankly, people will say, well, I just, you know, I left some Canadian Tire money on the dash, or I left a couple of loonies. Well, people will break into that. Somebody that is looking to purchase drugs or whatever else will say, $2 and $2 and $2 and $2 gives me enough to buy what I need. So how many cars do I have to break in to make that happen? And so we go out and tell people, just be a little more vigilant, be a little more careful. And we do the same thing, I guess, when you're walking down a dark alley at night, just be a little more vigilant.
Yeah.
If there's another option available to you, take take the option.
Okay, good point. Let's go to the calls. Again, the number's on the screen. We want to hear from you. Do you feel that Edmonton is safe? What are some of the big issues when it comes to crime in Edmonton? We have Earl on the line. Earl, welcome to your turn. Hello, Earl.
Hello, it's Pearl.
Oh, Pearl. Sorry, our apologies. Go ahead, Pearl. You're on with Chief Rod Kinecht.
Hi. This isn't with crime, but it's still a crime to me. When I see police people doing texting in their cars while they're driving, which I saw, and I'm a person of age, so I don't do texting. I'm beyond that. I've left that world for you people. And I'm wondering, is there a law for them and a law for me or people like me? The other question I have is, why do I see time and time again police cars won't wait for a red light like I have to? They turn their sirens on and away they go if there's no traffic. So is there two laws, one for them and one for us?
Okay, Pearl, thank you for your comments. You've probably heard that before.
Sure, and I can respond to it. And no, there isn't two laws. However, there is a distinguishment there. So, a police officer in the execution of his or her duties is allowed to text or talk on a cell phone if it's in the execution of their duties. Obviously, if they're not in the execution of their duties, they can't do that. But under the Act in the province of Alberta, they're allowed to do that. The same thing with, I guess, going through a red light. A police officer engaged again in their duties, so they're going to a call. They will turn on their red lights to get through that intersection. In fact, in order to be covered from liable behavior, they actually have to turn on their red lights and their siren to clear an intersection. So they can't just drive through that without lights and siren, or without lights, depending on the call. They have to, by law, engage lights or siren, or lights and siren.
You know, whenever I see that, I never question it, because I don't know what's going on at that time, whether the lights are on or the lights are off. I just, you know, I know you guys are doing a job, and I'm very thankful for that job. And we want to hear from you. It's your turn here on Shaw TV. My guest is Police Chief Rod Kinecht, and we want to hear from you with your calls and your tweets, and we'll take more when we come back. And when we come back, we took our cameras to the street, and we asked the question, how safe do you feel in Edmonton? We'll get those comments and more of your comments right after this.
Bring them on. The ones who aren't sure. The ones who can't wait. The ones with brand new shoes. And the ones with shoelace issues. The ones who love to be part of a group. And the ones who stand silent, tall, and more or less ready. At the YMCA, we believe potential is every kid's right. Every kid's advantage. Every kid's secret weapon. And the thing about potential is you don't want it to just stay potential. You want it to become everything it can be. At the Y, we never met a kid whose potential we couldn't see.
Is your old clunker weighing you down? Why not donate it to the Kidney Car program? With a free tow, Kidney Car is the hassle-free way to dispose of your vehicle. When you donate your kidney car, you support programs that help fight kidney disease in your community. Donated vehicles are either sold to be reused or are fully recycled, and you receive a tax credit. Join Don Cherry and thousands of Canadians in helping fight kidney disease today. A message from the Kidney Foundation of Canada.
Brought to you by Earth Rangers. Polar bears are the kings of the Arctic, and I want to keep it that way. I became an Earth Ranger to help scientists learn more about these amazing animals. We're helping to buy satellite collars so we can see how climate change affects their health. So what are you waiting for? Let's bring back the wild. Go to earthrangers.com, become an Earth Ranger, and start your polar bear campaign today.
I feel really safe. You know, like I actually live in Mill Woods, which doesn't have the best, reputation. But I feel pretty safe. I know all my neighbors. I think that's what really matters, right? Is having that sense of community. I think that's where the safety comes from.
Not safe. No. There's crime everywhere. You literally can't go outside without something happening.
I feel overall, I'd say very safe.
I feel perfectly safe, to be honest with you.
I think that it depends on the area of the city. Some areas are definitely safer than others. But once you get into the downtown core, there's definitely some areas that could use some work.
Welcome back to Your Turn here on Shaw TV. I'm Wade Sorokin, and my special guest is Police Chief Rod Kinecht. And we took to the streets there and we asked Edmontonians how safe do they feel. A bit of a mixed bag as far as, some say they feel very safe. One young gentleman said, well, no, there's crime everywhere. Now, you alluded earlier in the program that there are certain areas of the city that are more of a concern than others.
Yeah, absolutely. But overall, the city it's a safe city, and as I stated earlier, we are a big city. It's changing, it's growing exponentially, and we as the police, we're always trying to catch up in the sense of resources, because if we get resources approved, once our resources are approved, we submit our budget to the city. The resources are approved. We then have to hire people, recruit, train, and then get those people out on the streets, and it's about an 18-month to 24-month cycle that we're behind. Okay. So to respond to requirements for more resources, it is a 24-month cycle before we actually catch up.
All right, we have another Twitter question. This comes in from Devil Baker. It says, violent crimes in Edmonton virtually the same from 2013 to 2014. Why can't we get these stats down?
Because we're growing, and well, I'll tell you, our calls for service last year were up by 4,000. This year, we're looking like our calls for service will be up by 6,000. So we have the same resources responding to 6,000 more calls. Now, a lot of those calls are not violent calls, but they're nuisance calls. They're calls where people may feel threatened or are concerned, or just calling in and trying to help the police catch the bad guy, or something that's happening in their community that they're extremely concerned about. Mm-hmm. So we're trending up significantly here. In the last 3 years, we've trended up significantly as far as calls for service and demands on resources. We try to get to priority 1 calls, which are the most serious calls, 80% of the time within 7 minutes. We're floating right around 68, 69%. So it's a real challenge for us. And I know some members of the public are very concerned because of the fact that, well, I reported a break and enter, or my garage was broken into, or my car was broken into, and the police officer doesn't show up for 6 hours. Well, those calls are prioritized. So, if it's a Friday night or it's a Saturday night, it's going to take us a while to get to those less serious calls. All right, let's get back to the calls here. It is James on the line. James, welcome to Your Turn. You can turn your television down, please.
Yes, I would just like to ask Mr. Kinecht there.
Please turn your television, James. Okay, go ahead now.
There's a public oversight committee in Vancouver that was put in over the RCMP.
Don't listen to yourself, James.
This was after they put in a program called I Hit for all the murders that has been happening.
We're just going to put James on hold here, and please tell him to turn his TV down because there is a bit of a delay. Didn't really catch what he said. There's some sort of Oversight program in Vancouver. Are you familiar with anything?
Yeah, actually two issues there. He talked about an oversight, and our oversight, we have a police commission here in Edmonton that is responsible for governance and oversight of the Edmonton Police Service. It's a 9-person group that is representatives of the community, or a real cross-section of the community. 2 of those people are city councillors that sit on that oversight committee. And they monitor the police and make sure we're doing what we're supposed to do, and we're actually doing what the community wants from their police. He talked about IHIT. IHIT is a combined task force that Vancouver Police, RCMP, other police services in the greater Vancouver area that collaborate and integrate to solve serious crimes, specifically homicides.
Okay. Thank you, James, and we apologize for that. But yeah, please, everyone who calls in, you got to turn down your television. And we have Pat on the line right now. Pat, welcome to Your Turn.
Hi, how's it going?
Very good. You're on with Police Chief Rod Kinecht.
Yeah, I'd like to ask the chief here, like I watch the news a lot, okay? And I'm constantly seeing like the cops come on TV, giving their 2 cents worth on the problem with the traffic, for example, people driving too fast and everything else. I'd like to know, when did the police come in, why the police feel it is their duty to make the laws when you are hired by the taxpayers to enforce them?
Okay, Pat, thank you for your call.
So we don't make the laws.
We don't.
We enforce the laws. And specific to traffic, we did a public survey here, or I should say actually the Edmonton Police Commission did a public survey here in January. And traffic issues are #1 on Edmontonians' mind. In fact, 100% above the next issue, which is drugs and gangs. But Edmontonians collectively, and I get email and I get messages from folks right across this city, as well as when I hold town halls or open forums, and the #1 issue is traffic. People in this city are very upset with the speeding, distracted driving, those kinds of things, blowing red lights. It is the #1 issue, and we're a community police service. The public expects us to deliver on what they see as their biggest issues, and traffic is their biggest issue, without a doubt, and it has been that way. Actually, it's been trending like that for about 7 years.
Well, it's one of those issues that affects us on a daily basis.
Everybody. I drive to work every morning like everybody else, and when distracted driving laws came in, you saw people, you'd look around at the intersection and everybody's kind of wondering what they should do. They almost looked lost.
Yeah.
Now we've progressed a little while, and you look at an intersection and everybody's got their hand or their head in their laps and are obviously texting. So it's a huge problem here in Edmonton.
Do you think there should be tougher penalties for distracted driving, higher fees and maybe demerits?
I'm not so sure raising the fine will solve the problem. Really, demerits is one thing. Edmontonians, Albertans love their driver's license, and if that driver's license was in jeopardy or could be in jeopardy over a period of time after a series of offenses, I think that would be something that would resonate with people. Right now, nobody really pays attention to it. Our people can write, quite frankly, can write speeding tickets and distracted driving tickets all they want. It's like shooting ducks in a barrel, quite frankly.
Yeah, I mean, people have criticized the police, saying, okay, we have this law now for distracted driving, but you're not really out there looking for it, and that's why people are getting away with it.
Well, we have dedicated traffic units in the city, so all they do is enforce traffic laws. And obviously they can't be everywhere all the time, but they're out there writing tickets. I can tell you, we do write a lot of tickets. Okay. There's no question we write a lot of tickets. But that's not going to solve the problem. It's an education process. It's getting the public to buy into that this is a public safety issue. This is a safety issue not only for you as a driver, but it's a safety issue for those around you, your family members that drive. We don't want to see people injured, seriously injured, or killed as a result of a text message. It just seems ridiculous.
Well, we're taking Twitter messages now. Hopefully nobody's doing this while driving, but we have a Twitter question that'll come up on the screen right now. I believe it's about medical marijuana. It says, what's EPS's opinion of Health Canada revising the medical marijuana policies, favorable or cautious?
Well, it's a bit of a challenge right now for us because now folks had a medical marijuana license and they were allowed to grow their own marijuana in their home for personal use, obviously. That law is changing, or has changed, but it's been not revoked, but stayed for a period of time here. The government has gone out and said, well, they want to look at folks to grow marijuana at a commercial level and supply those people with medical marijuana. Mm-hmm. So it's a bit of a challenge right now. We're in a bit of a gray zone because there are folks out there that have medical marijuana licenses that are growing medical marijuana, and yet we don't know who they are, obviously, and that creates a bit of a challenge. So those folks are waiting, I think, till the government decides where these commercial licenses are going to be issued and how they're going to be issued, and just the rules around that.
Okay, let's get back to the calls. I believe we have Heather on the line. Heather, welcome to Your Turn.
Hi.
It's your turn with the police chief.
Yes, my question is how can you get much better than you are? I've lived in a lot of cities in both the U.S. and Canada, and I have never seen a better force than the one you have. You're compassionate with people, you're diligent, you're out there doing the check stops, and only the people who have complaints are the people who are doing something wrong. Good job.
Well, thank you very much, Heather. Appreciate that. And you and I were talking before the program aired about how, you know, the people who have the complaints about the police are the ones who you say, well, it's because they're pulling me over, they're writing me tickets, and you said, well, don't break the law.
Yeah, I guess that's the best way not to get a ticket is don't break the law. You know, I want to thank Heather very much for her kind comments. We just did this public survey. Again, the Police Commission, not the Edmonton Police Service, did this public survey. And we had a 93% confidence rate. And the question was, well, how do you do better? And I guess we're going to always strive for 100%, knowing full well we'll never achieve that. But that's the target. And, you know, obviously my concern when we're at 93% this year is you know, we don't have much room at the top to go. And you know, my concern is are we going to go down? So. But we're going to keep trying to get to that 100%.
Well, as we mentioned, the overall survey suggests Edmontonians feel safer, happier with police compared to numbers recorded in 2011. And the survey suggests the major issue, as we mentioned, is traffic. Yeah. We want to know what your major issue is. Give us a call, or you can tweet us as well. This is Your Turn here on Shaw TV. My name is Wade Sorkin. My special guest is Police Chief Rod Kinecht. And I believe we have a Twitter question that's going to come up on the screen right now. This is from Jen Martin at Shaw. What does the chief think of the proposed new federal legislation on prostitution, making Johns the outlaws?
You know, I haven't had a chance to do a sort of a deep dig into the law. I've read a summary, and you know, it's a very contentious issue, and people have very strong views on both sides of the fence. I mean, at the end of the day, we want to protect our most vulnerable. We want to protect those people that are victimized by other people, by the predators out there. Mm-hmm. And this law, the new law, addresses the prostitutes are obviously not the target of the law, will not be charged. And the law does go after the Johns, the consumers of sex as such. So. Yeah. So, you know, is it a perfect law? I don't know if any law can be perfect. We'll see what happens with the law as it evolves and as it's executed, and we'll see where we go with that. But again, we don't want to victimize the victim, and I think in some cases that can happen certainly. But it's to keep, you know, we have a society to protect, the whole society to protect, not just a particular individual or an individual group. We want to make everybody safe.
All right, well, let's get back to the calls. And Rodney, it's your turn here on Shaw TV.
Hello, good afternoon or good evening. I was wondering, when it comes to hip-hop/reggae shows and events, how can the police provide more safety for the venue?
Okay, thank you, Rodney.
Well, we have a number of those events, and I think it's all about preparedness and knowing what's happening. I think making sure there's medical staff available to take care of folks if they're in distress at any particular location. I know we do a pretty good job in this city of keeping those events safe. Obviously, there's an opportunity or a venue for the excessive consumption of drugs and or alcohol, and that's always a challenge. I think, you know, I've often said you probably would need half the police service you have today if it wasn't for drugs and alcohol, and that's one of the bigger challenges, certainly for us, and I think certainly for a society. And so there are a number of ways to keep it safe. Go with friends, let your family know where you're going, and let a loved one know where you're going and what you're doing. And keep in touch with people when you're at the event itself, like your family members, or have a friend. Don't go by yourself.
Right.
Don't leave with a stranger. Don't overconsume and then go someplace where you don't know you have someone you can trust with you. You know, most of it's common sense, but sometimes it's not common sense. And I think common sense often goes out the door when we've consumed too many drugs or too much alcohol. We're not ourselves, we're not as sharp as we should be, and that's when we get ourselves into a jam. So it's always nice to have sort of somebody there that's sober, that can take care of you. If you're the one that's deciding to consume that night, maybe have somebody there that can help you through things.
All right, well said. We're going to come back in just a moment. We'll take a break, but this is Your Turn here on Shaw TV. I'm Wade Sorokin with our special guest, Edmonton Police Chief Rod Kinecht. What are your biggest concerns when it comes to crime in Edmonton? Do you feel safe in Edmonton? And again, we took to the streets with our camera, and when we come back, we're going to find out from people what their biggest concern is about crime here in Edmonton. This is Your Turn on Shaw TV. We're back right after this.
Visit kidshelpphone.ca/donate and give today.
Shaw TV is your local voice, bringing local events, information, and entertainment to your community. Shaw TV welcomes story ideas and proposals for shows or series that represent local viewpoints and activities. These shows or series can be an idea or already produced. For information on how to submit a proposal, please visit us at shawtv.com.
I think we could do a lot to improve that sense of security for people. The higher density we are, the more people will feel comfortable in community with others, and that there's that surveillance factor there.
I mean, I do live downtown, and I would say that if I were walking around downtown at night on, like, say, a Friday or Saturday night, and there were a group of people out from the bar, I would think twice about going there if it was kind of a dark or kind of if I was alone or something like that. But overall, I'd say you're going to find that kind of thing anywhere, right? Like, that's just living in a city.
But I've learned over the years, if there's an incident, you have to report it. You have to be active about it. If you just stand by and see something and don't participate, like, don't notify the authorities, nothing's going to change.
Welcome back to Your Turn. I'm Wade Sorokin with our special guest, Edmonton Police Chief Rod Kinecht. We heard some of the comments there from the street about, you know, what are their biggest concerns about crime. An interesting comment there that, you know, there is a certain responsibility as citizens. Can we talk more about that?
Yeah, I think great point. Well, we noticed this back in April of last year, where we were getting more people reporting crime. We had more people assisting us, you know, reporting a license plate, a suspicious vehicle. As I alluded to earlier, our calls for service are up significantly over the last year. But I think that's just the public engaging and taking possession of their city. This is their Edmonton. This is our Edmonton. We should be proud of this city. We want to make this city the very best it is. The vision of the Edmonton Police Service, quite frankly, is to make Edmonton the safest major city in Canada. We can't do that alone. We won't be successful in meeting our vision if we just try to do it on our own as a police service. It requires total community engagement and everybody working together to make this a safe city. It's you know, we go back to traffic. You know, the public can help with that too. It's just not a police responsibility to get people to slow down.
What about people say, like, well, I don't know if I should call the police. It seems suspicious. I don't know. If there is anything suspicious, should they call? And then, you know, do they call 911 or do they call the other number that now is available for people to call for less serious incidents?
Well, obviously we want to use 911 for the most serious of incidents, something that's happening right now where somebody could be hurt or injured, or it's a crime in progress, and that's what 911 is designed for. It's an emergency line. But you should never worry about calling the police or thinking, oh, well, gee, what if, you know, I'm going to embarrass myself, or I saw something, you know, in the back alley and I'm not going to bother calling, and then you regret that the next day. You know, we want to encourage public engagement. We want the public to work with us to solve crime, because that's how we're going to drive it down. That's how we'll drive down the violence. That's how we're going to make this a really safe city for everyone, and for our families and for our futures.
All right, we have another Twitter question coming in. Again, you can call the number on the screen to call directly into our program here. To be your turn with Police Chief Rod Kinecht, but also you can send your tweets. And this one says, mass murderers seem to be killing for media attention and getting it. Why is this sensationalized coverage allowed? Your thoughts on media coverage of mass murder events?
Well, I think because they are sensational, and you know, are they over covered sometimes? Yes, I would. You know, the sort of, it's the world in which we live though now. The social media, the 24/7 circuit, the desire to know right now and all the time and what's going on.
Yep.
So I think that sort of feeds it. I mean, you look in 20 years ago, that wasn't the case, and you probably didn't know the crime that occurred a province over or a country over. Now you know exactly what's happening in another country immediately, and people are engaged, and the media are right on that right away, and everybody's in a race to get it out as quickly as possible. I mean, the thing I'm most concerned about is the accuracy of that sort of stuff. Sometimes, you know, in a hurry to get the message out, it's not always accurate.
Right. Media needs to be responsible.
Absolutely. I think we all have to be responsible.
All right, let's get back to the phone lines and talk to Joan. Joan, it's your turn here on Shaw TV. Go ahead.
Okay. I'm terribly sorry about what's happened to the officers. And I say that all weapons should be banned. Guns and knives and all that stuff should be banned. Because it's getting from bad to worse.
Okay, thank you very much, Joan, for your thoughts on the situation that's going on in Moncton right now. This is June the 5th that we're doing this live program, and there's still a situation unfolding in Moncton with 3 RCMP officers that have been killed, 2 others that were wounded. Whenever there's situations like that, people do respond by saying we need to ban all kinds of, you know, firearms, knives, everything.
Well, I guess my first response is it's actually the individual. It's not the weapon, and so that's the, you know, mental illness is one of those biggest concerns, and people that are, you know, obviously this individual has some issues, and the sooner he can be arrested, I think, the sooner everybody will be happy and in a better place. But you know, to ban all weapons, you know, I've had the debate with folks where you say, you know, we should have a ban on knives, because, you know, knives are the biggest challenge here in Edmonton as far as violence and homicides. But you can't really do that. How do you stop? You know, we have kitchen knives, we have hunting knives, we have all those kinds of things. So it's a real challenge. It's all about changing behavior. It's all about when you see behavior in an individual that's questionable, or somebody is threatening violence. Again, that's when you call 911. That's when you contact the police and get us engaged immediately on that, or get somebody, a health professional engaged, or somebody to help that individual, because a lot of the times in these types of situations, there's signs beforehand.
And that's so frustrating with social media, that a lot of these people are posting their intentions on social media, and then we find out about it afterwards.
Right. And it's always that, well, we shoulda, coulda, woulda,
right.
And it's too late. But in, you know, a lot of these incidents, I've seen it throughout a 38 career in policing here now, is there were signs beforehand. There was a conversation with somebody. There was a family member that was very, very concerned, or thought, gee, you know, what do I do? Should I phone the police? Again, phone the police.
Phone the police. All right, let's get back to the phone lines. We have Alan on the phone line. Alan, it's your turn here on Shaw TV.
Good evening. How's everybody tonight?
Very good, thank you. You're on with Police Chief Rod Kinecht. Go ahead.
Yes, I'm calling in regards, I live in Old Strathcona here, and there's an awful lot of bicycle thefts that happen in this neighborhood. And I was just wondering, like, if the police kind of have a clue who these people are, why aren't they actually doing something about it? If you know what I mean. Like,
okay.
Sure. So,
all right, thank you, Alan, for your call.
So I guess 2 things. Quite often, bicycle thefts people aren't reporting them. They'll say, well, the police are too busy, or they'll probably never find out who it is, so I'm just not going to report them. We urge people to report crime, even no matter how minor it is. And that's how we can maintain our statistics. We may not get that person that stole the bike the first time or the second time or the third time, but we'll see a pattern, and we pattern everything. The logistics we use with the Edmonton Police Service, the data we use, we do see hot spots no matter what the crime is, whether it is stolen bikes, stolen cars, violent crimes, sexual assaults, whatever they are. We do hotspot policing. So we do encourage the public to report crime no matter how minor it is. The other issue is we are doing something. We will arrest an individual. We will charge him. I'll give you an example. This morning I had a briefing, and we talked about an individual in the south end of the city, the southwest corner of the city, had been arrested every week, once a week, for stealing a vehicle. Processed, released. Processed, released. So that's a challenge, and we know the courts are burdened.
How frustrating is that for you as a police service?
That's extremely frustrating. The public's got to be frustrated. We're very frustrated because a police officer will put a lot of work into trying to find out the individual responsible. And sometimes it's easy, sometimes it's not so easy. And so we invest a lot of taxpayers' dollars into finding out who's responsible for a particular crime. We arrest them, we charge them, they're taken before the courts, and most often, depending on what the crime, if it's a non-violent crime, most of the time that individual will get an absolute discharge, or he'll get probation, or he'll get a fine, or she will get a fine. It's got to be that second, that third, sometimes that fourth offense before that individual will actually end up in jail.
All right. Well, I think we have a Twitter question that'll come up on the screen right now. Again, we welcome your calls, your tweets. This is your turn here on Shaw TV. This one says, please, Chief, be clear. Do ticket quotas exist or not? This has been a concern for people thinking the only reason, there's photo radar, the only reason you're ticketing us is because you got to meet a quota. Is that true?
I promise you, there is no quota. Actually, our officers can write as many tickets as they want, or as few as they want. We are in a target-rich environment here in Edmonton, so there's lots of opportunity to write tickets, but ours isn't about generating revenue, it's about public safety. The Edmonton Police Service is not responsible for the speed on green or the photo radar. That's not our bailiwick. We do the interaction. We stop an offender. If they're caught speeding, we stop the offender, we issue them a ticket, and they go on their way. But no, there absolutely isn't any quotas. Do we benefit from those dollars go into a revenue fund with the province, and it may come back. We'll get some of that money back, but we don't count on that as part of our budget as such. I mean, it is part of our budget at the end of the day.
Right.
But well, last year, for instance, I'll give you an example. We generated $2 million less revenue in ticket writing than we did the previous year.
Okay.
So, and that's just because we're busy, because we're taking calls. There's more calls for service. So we're not writing as many tickets simply because there's more calls for service.
And sometimes you will pull someone over and not write the ticket.
Absolutely. In fact, I said that as recently as 2 weeks ago on a parade change with our police officers. I said, you don't have to write a ticket every time you stop somebody. And in fact, it's my philosophy that you approach the individual and they may talk themselves out of a ticket just by, I was speeding, I know I was speeding, and often we can let that individual go. I mean, we don't have to write a ticket, and our officers know that. And sometimes that makes somebody's day.
Absolutely. Well, we want to hear from you. This is your turn here on Shaw TV. My special guest is Edmonton Police Chief Rod Kinecht. What are some of the issues that you think are most important for you? How do you feel in Edmonton? Do you feel safe? What are the biggest issues when it comes to crime? We want to hear from you. And when we come back, there was a woman who talked to our cameras on the street about an issue that we talked about earlier on the program about her own personal safety and how she thinks, why is the police telling me that I can't walk alone in a dark alley at night? We'll get her comment and more of your comments here on Your Turn on Shaw TV.
When you wish for something wonderful to happen.
Sometimes it can make you forget
about the needles and the pain.
And get through this thing.
Forget about being stuck inside.
Laugh with my family.
Go somewhere really amazing and get through this thing.
The Children's Wish Foundation of Canada. Imagine the difference a wish can make.
The foundation of my community starts with you and me. More than charity, it's the empathy I feel for the people where I live. Close to home is where the heart is. Where help goes farthest, my foundation helps me start this. Bringing care to those who can't get by or just need to fly. My foundation reaches across the land, showing what we thousands banded together can do, including you. With a way and a will, it all gets built on the foundation.
From the big screen to your screen, check out Lone Survivor, playing right now on Shaw On Demand.
You see this? We're fixing to get into a pretty good gunfight. There's a storm inside of us.
I would ask him why the police suggested that women should not walk in alleys by themselves. I think that that is atrocious. I think that if women are being accosted in alleys, we have a huge societal issue, and we need to make alleys safe for women. It's not about women hiding inside. It should be about how do we make sure all our spaces are safe so that we can go out and walk in our alleys.
Welcome back to Your Turn here on Shaw TV. I'm Wade Sorkin with our special guest, Edmonton Police Chief Rod Kinecht. And we just heard from that woman on the street. We talked about this earlier in the program about personal safety. Your response to what she said?
Well, you know, I agree with her that anybody should be able to walk anywhere they want in the city. And we want to make the city as safe as possible. We do have certain areas in the city that can be, again, a little less safe depending on, the day of the week, the time of the day. And so we just want to make sure people are fully informed about where they're walking, what they're doing, and so they're as safe as possible.
Okay. We also have another Twitter question coming in here. It says, question for Chief Kinecht. We see more constables on foot and on bike in neighborhoods. Great. Are there plans to expand this visibility?
Yeah, you know, one of the issues for Edmontonians in that survey that the Edmonton Police Commission did back in January was they want increased visibility. So we're working towards that. I mean, one of the things we did when I first became chief is we changed the police cars, so black and white, and we felt that made them a lot more visible, so people don't mistake them for a cab or an EPCOR vehicle or something else.
Yeah, we used to have yellow police vehicles back in the 80s, I think.
That's right, yeah. That's right. So clearly this is a police car, and people see it as such. So that increases the visibility right there. But yeah, we've got segways now in the downtown area. We use segways, so we're more visible. As a matter of fact, I talked to a group of constables this morning, and they're out on bikes, and they're hitting the pathways and stuff, and they say they're just parked. You know, this particular constable said he was fixing or blowing up his tire on the path, and a bunch of people came out, you know, out of their backyards and engaged in a conversation. And I think the police are just much more approachable if they're on foot, if they're on a bike, if they're on a Segway. Get them out of the cars, get them engaged with the public, have those conversations. We're human beings. We're not these nameless, shapeless individuals that are not engaged. We want our police officers to be engaged, and I preach that all the time. Get out there, talk to the public. This is all about working together, and we just, you know, we leverage our resources by having that public engagement.
And when you're out on the street, obviously you notice a lot of the things, the homelessness and the issues that we talked about with mental health issues and things like that. You recently launched last year the Heavy Users of Services Project. Proceeds of crime money helping at-risk persons get off the street, like alcohol, substance abuse, mental illness, and homelessness. Individuals with these issues may come in frequent contact with the police and take up a lot of resources. How has that program been going over the past year?
We've been making significant progress. So how that came about is a couple of constables said to me, look, we're running into people, we're getting calls for service because somebody's acting erratically. We show up, the individual, I mean, they really haven't committed any crime, and you know, they're supposed to, we arrest them, we take them, we have no place to take them. So in this particular situation, an individual, our officers, it's -30 out, we have no place to take these people. We don't want to put them in jail, so we're driving them around in the backseat of the police car. And sometimes they're just inebriated, or they need help. So this Heavy Users of Service project grew out of, let's not put serial inebriates, intoxicated persons, the mentally ill, the addicted, the homeless. Let's not just process them through the criminal justice system, take them to jail, and let somebody else worry about them. This project was all about, let's get these people to a better place. Let's address our most vulnerable in our community. Let's get them the mental health assistance they need, the physical health assistance they need, or just get them the help that they want, and they just don't know how to access that help. A lot of these folks that are homeless, they don't even qualify for a library card. They have no identification, and they can't access help because they don't have identification. So what we're doing with that is we're trying to get them the help they need, engaging other services. Again, not just a police responsibility. 30% of our calls are to the mentally ill, responding to the mentally ill.
Wow.
So it's a huge impact on the police service.
So this would free up a lot more time.
A tremendous amount of police service resources. So, and this is just about engaging Alberta Health Services, the shelters, private sector, social services, working all together, collaborating and saying, look, this is all our responsibility. It's not just a police responsibility. I'll give you an example where, we do not want to be the social service agency of first resort for the mentally ill, and right now we are the social service agency of first resort because we're 24/7, 365 days a year, and folks don't have these problems just from 8 to 4 Monday through Friday. These are challenges for this community, for this city, 24/7, 365 days a year. So that collaboration is working very well. We're working with our partners in both the private and public sector, and we're getting these people off the streets. We're getting them to a safer place where they're re-engaging with families that maybe they thought they were lost. A lot of these folks are coming. Edmonton is not only the gateway to the north, it's the gateway from the north. And so we see a lot of people coming to Edmonton right now. And our homeless population, although we're addressing a lot of the homeless issues, our homeless population is actually growing. And it's just because people are coming to Edmonton. We do a pretty good job of working with the homeless here. And that population tends to be in flux. And so it becomes a police problem a lot of the times. And we just don't think they should be going to jail.
Right.
We think there's a better place for these people to be.
All right. Well, we're going to take a break right now, but we want to hear from you. We still have some time for your calls and your tweets here on Your Turn. The number is on the screen, and the Twitter handle is on the screen. My special guest is Edmonton Police Chief Rod Kinecht. And when we come back, we'll hear comments from Edmontonians on the street, how they feel, what they feel can be done about crime in Edmonton to partner with the police service, or what the police need to do to battle crime more in Edmonton. More of those comments and your calls and your tweets here on Your Turn on Shaw TV.
Hi, I'm Owen with Lifetime Basements and Renovations, offering basement development services in the Edmonton area. We specialize in basement remodeling, and we do bathrooms too. Call 780-292-5661 or visit us online at lifetimerenos.ca.
Brought to you by Earth Rangers. Shh. I'm searching for Oregon spotted frogs, and I can't find a single one. That's because there's barely any left in the wild. I became an Earth Ranger so I could help protect these amazing amphibians. So what are you waiting for? Let's bring back the wild. Go to earthrangers.com, become an Earth Ranger, and start your Oregon Spotted Frog campaign today.
Actually, I think it's just a lot about building community. So I think it's about, things on campus like Safe Walk. If you could integrate something like that into the neighborhoods and off the LRT system so that people could walk home comfortably from the LRT.
Bigger presence is a big thing. Like at events like today, I'm sure you'll see a few officers walking around, but it's anything where you meet lots of people, there's lots of chances for incidences, getting more of a foot traffic out there.
All right, welcome back to Your Turn here on Shaw TV. I'm Wade Sorokin with our special guest, Edmonton Police Chief Rod Kinecht. And we heard some of the comments there about, what can be done. Police presence seems to be top of mind with people. Yeah, I think there's a sense of comfort then. And we talked about that earlier with the bikes and the segways and the foot patrols. People like that. There's a sense of comfort. They feel more relaxed in their community. It's the point about walking to and from the LRT, and just having those police even on the LRT. And we're actually exploring a pilot project right now, putting police officers on the LRT lines, just to create that sense of comfort, that people don't have to worry, I'm going to be a victim of crime here, or if I go out, do I have to worry? People like to see police. Now, obviously, we can't have police on every street corner, right, and there's a tax implication to that too. Yes. Do we need a few more police officers in Edmonton? Yeah, we need a few more, and that's just because we're growing as a community. Yeah. But you don't need a whole pile of police officers if your community is engaged, if you're working together, if, again, phone the police when there's a crime or there's an issue that you're concerned about, work with the police, and we can police ourselves as a society too. Yeah. A busy downtown, a lot of times it's a busy downtown, there's less crime just because there's a lot of people around, everybody's sort of looking out for each other, and I think that's, as a society and as a community here in Edmonton, we have a real opportunity. We should be looking out for each other a lot more. Back to the issue about walking in a dark alley by yourself. Yes, you have the right to do that, but is that really a smart thing to do? It's best to be around other people, you feel safer, that sort of thing. Yeah, and again, there's things we can do about making that back alley not as dark as it is. True. There's things to do there too. So I think there's a lot of things we can do, but it's all about bringing that forward and us participating in doing that together. What do you think? We still have time for your calls. If you want to get your comments in, your questions to Edmonton Police Chief Rod Kinecht, you can do so right now. The number is on the screen. You can also tweet your question in here on Your Turn on Shaw TV. Just before we get too far in the program here and end, gang activity in Edmonton, how prevalent is it? It's actually dropped significantly over about the last 4 or 5 years. We're seeing a diminishment in it. It still exists. It's out there. We still have a bit of a gang issue, but it's not an in-your-face gang issue, and it's not a huge gang issue like we do see in some other communities. It's not as organized as other communities? I wouldn't say it's not as organized, it's just not as big. I don't think, there's a lot of programs out there and a lot of successful programs out there, community programs. And I think that, gangs proliferate when people, kids don't have anything to do. They feel disengaged. There's no sense of family. There's no sense of community. When those things happen, when they're left to their own devices and there's people, there's always a catalyst there. And when I speak of a catalyst, sometimes that's an individual. Sometimes that's a circumstance. And that's how the gangs sort of gain some progress, but we're not seeing it as much. The drug trafficking too, it's not necessarily all gang related now. There's the sort of the lone wolf drug trafficker, or small groups working together, or small groups cooperating. You have the Hells Angels and somebody else might be working together. Sure. All right, well, let's take a call here before we end off the program. I believe it's Vivian. Vivian, it's your turn here on Shaw TV.
Good evening. Thank you, Chief Kinecht. I'm calling about living with drugs in the same house. I am a 70-year-old disabled woman, and I signed a lease to live with no smoking. But a fellow moved in, and he brings in several other fellows, and they use drugs constantly, 24/7. And I can't sleep at night. It is 24/7. Horrible drugs come up into my part of the house where I rent. What can I do? Vivian, are you more concerned about your safety or just the... Yes. You are? Okay. Safety and my health. And your health. I have I've called landlord-tenant with no results. All right. What can I do? All right, Vivian, we'll get a comment from the police chief. Thank you very much for your call. Here's someone who's living in an area where there's drugs affecting her. Yeah, I guess, and again, one of my suggestions, and she's already done that, is to get hold of her landlord and have them deal with the problem, because that's obviously probably not part of a lease agreement or a rental agreement. The other thing is simply call us and let us know, and we can deal with that situation overtly or covertly. Okay, sounds good.
Great questions, great tweets. We thank you very much for joining us today here on Your Turn. Police Chief Rod Kinecht, in 20 seconds, what can you say to Edmontonians?
You've got a great community, you've got a safe community, you've got a great police service. That's, and together we'll make this an even better and safer community in which to live.
And I agree, and thank you very much for your service and the whole EPS.
Well, thank you very much, Wade. It was my pleasure.
Well, until next time, my name is Wade Sorkin. I want to thank our special guest, Edmonton Police Chief Rod Kinecht, and thank you for joining us, and thank you for your calls and your tweets. Until next time, bye for now.
The proceeding was an independently produced community access program. The viewpoints expressed are those of the community access producer and do not reflect those of Shaw Cable Systems. The program is presented in response to CRTC policy guidelines regulating community programming.